Hey, what's up bikers? Pierce here with Electric Bike Report, and today we have the KBO Hurricane. The KBO Hurricane is great at being a normal standard commuter bike first and an electric bike second. With a bike like this, you have a very organic feeling pedal stroke below you, and that motor assistance is very much in the background. Because of that, you can focus more on riding your bike and less on the bike taking over for your ride overall. I'm looking forward to showing you all the little things on this bike that make it really cool. And by the end of the review, I think you'll see why we like the KBO Hurricane. Let's get started. Let's start off with our electrical components. Powering the bike is a 250 watt rear hub motor with 350 watts of peak power. As I mentioned in our intro, this is very much a background motor in the sense that you're still going to be pedaling quite a bit for this motor to engage and kind of boost you uphill and maintain your speed. Connecting to that is a 36 volt 9.6 amp hour battery. This battery is decent size for being able to fit into such a small down tube. Yes, it's 36 volts, only 9.6 amp hours, but when you consider the fact that it's within this frame here, that's pretty impressive they are able to fit that up in there. You're going to be able to read all your display related stuff on this micro display here. That's going to show you your top speed, which assistance level you're in, how much charge you have left, and a couple more things that you might like to use on your ride. One of my favorite things about this display is the fact that it's barely there in the first place. This display is very much in the background, just like the rest of the bike, and I only notice it if I want to look at it. Because of that, I'm more focused on my ride and less on all the data, what assistance level I'm in, and how much charge I have left. I can look at that stuff if I need to, but it's not always right up in my face like some of these bigger, brighter displays are. Your tires on this bike are 32C tires. They're on the 700C rims. Very fast rolling. I like that they went above a 30C tire just because that extra volume is going to help dampen out cracks in the road and give you a little bit of traction on corners. These tires seem to be pretty puncture resistant so far. Hopefully that stays the case throughout our review day today, but so far so good on the tires. They're fast rolling. I like them a lot. Your frame itself is 6061 alloy, and I think KBO's done a very good job creating a good looking frame. When I look at this frame, I get very much stealth fighter jet vibes from it. It feels like every little nook, every little bend in the frame is meant to be there for a reason, and it adds up to a very stiff, good feeling frame overall. Your saddle is a Cell Royal Gel saddle. It's plenty soft. The shape works pretty well for being bent over the handlebars. I don't have any complaints about the saddle. I think they do a good job. Your handlebars are 610 millimeters wide. They're pretty flat and they're made of alloy. Coming from a mountain bike background, these handlebars took a little bit of time to get used to, but once I was used to that thinner width, I kind of like the way it pitched me up on the bike. I felt very aero and ready to cruise along, cutting through the wind nicely. Other components, you have lock-on grips. These grips are plenty soft. With a bike like this, comfort isn't your main priority, and these grips are a perfect example of great utility, but maybe not the softest grip in the world. Your brakes are 160 millimeter rotors with mechanical disc brakes. There is no branding on these brakes, but they feel very much like a Tektro setup. And these brakes have been fine so far. In our brake tests section, we're going to go a little bit more in depth on how these perform and give you a good idea if these brakes are good or bad for the bike overall. So KBO actually adds a few additional accessories when you purchase your Hurricane, one of which is this nice alloy bottle cage here. That bottle cage is really good at holding onto that bottle tight. If you hit bumps or anything, it's not going to fall out. Something that's really nice. I've lost a few water bottles on my rides, and there's nothing worse than going down to get the drink and see there's no water there. So I really like that bottle cage. They also included a kickstand that, as you would hope, keeps the bike upright. And normally they also include fenders. We prefer the fenders off on this bike, but those fenders will also be included if you prefer that style. Again, we just kind of like the look of the Hurricane without those fenders. So overall, you get a pretty killer setup for this bike for paying $1,000. The single speed belt drive is nice, the pedals are a really cool shape, and the design as a whole, all these components work together to create that stealthy commuting machine that we know this bike as. So, how does the 36-pound KBO Hurricane handle? Well, it handles a lot like a road bike, except with a flat bar. Because of the flat bar as opposed to a drop bar, you have a lot more nimble handling and you're a lot more comfortable at higher speeds overall. At least I am. Personally, I like having my hands outright versus tucked under like some road bikes, and the way they've given me this flat bar really adds a lot to the handling when it comes to the tight corners and then really having a lot of speed in a straight line. I also really like the spacers they've added on the stem here. It goes into a positive sweep stem, and because of that, you're not gonna be too leaned over the front of the bike like you are on some conventional road bikes. Your neck is going to be a lot happier, your lower back is going to be a lot happier, and you can focus a lot more on what's in front of you versus contorting your head up to be in the proper riding position. This bike just feels like it's designed to keep you a little bit more comfortable while you are still riding fairly aggressively. A bike like this is no cruiser. It's not going to be as comfortable as a cruiser, but it's going to be a lot more efficient, and things such as the amount of spacers here, the positive sweep stem, and a little bit softer saddle all add up into a bike that will allow you to handle at high speeds very efficiently. From point A to point B, this bike is very fast and efficient. So a big question I had, and probably a lot of you have, is how does that 36-volt 9 amp hour battery last? Is it so small that it's dead after one use? Can you get 20 miles on it? Well, we did 2 separate range tests to figure that out. On one range test, we pedaled the bike in the lowest pedal assist level and saw how far we could get. In our other test, we did the highest pedal assist level and saw how far we could get. On our low level assistance, we got 36.2 miles with an average speed of 12. Not too fast, chugging along nicely. It's good to know this bike can get above 35 miles or so, but that isn't even close to the 53-mile range that they say on their website. So that's why we test these things, is to see if the numbers truly add up. And in the way of long range, max range, this was a lot lower than what they said on the website, 36 to 53. But with that being said, I actually got farther than the minimum range on the website, where they said 18 miles. I actually got 23 miles, 23.71 miles to be exact, and I had an average speed of 16.1, about what that guy was going right there. With that being said, this bike can move. It's not going to last as long as some of your bigger 48-volt, 14 amp hour batteries that you may be used to on a fat tire e-bike or something. But again, that is not what this bike's intended to be. This motor and battery setup is very much in the background to your normal ride. That's why this bike only comes in at 36 pounds. It's not trying to break any speed records or distance records. It's trying to give you a smooth, superhuman feeling on your destination from point A to point B. Alrighty bikers, we are to our infamous hill test known as Hellhole, and I have the feeling that it's going to live up to the name today. One, I don't have a throttle on the KBO Hurricane, so there's no going up this on the bike's power. Two, you only have 250 watts of sustained power on the Hurricane with a peak of 350, not to mention the single speed belt drive drivetrain. In simpler terms, this bike is going to add up to be a challenge to make it up our steep hill here, but that's why we have this hill for our test, to really put these bikes through the ringer to see what they're made out of. In today's instance, I think we're also going to see what I'm made out of, because this hill is not easy, even on the more powerful bikes we test. So let's get pumping and see how it goes. That gets tough fast. I think I'm gonna give it another go standing and pedaling. But that was with the normal effort relative to what I do on the other bikes, and I made it about halfway. Really ran out of juice on the steepest pitch right there, so we'll give it another try. Alrighty guys, we just finished up our hill test on the KBO Hurricane. As I suspected, it tested not only the bike's limits, but my limits to get up that. Just for some reference, I'm standing about where I ended when I was sitting down pedaling, giving it an effort that was pretty relatively similar to the effort I give on our other e-bikes we test. I made it up the hill when I stood up and sprinted though, and I got 1 minute and 32 seconds. I had an average speed of 11.8 over that span and an average heart rate of 165 beats per minute, which is working pretty hard, especially when I wasn't warmed up. So what I've gathered from this bike is if you have the leg strength to keep it moving, you will fly. It's just a matter of having that juice to keep the bike moving. Around this part of the hill, standing, I really started to feel it. I was running out of juice quite a bit. I'm happy to say that I did make it, but it wasn't easy. But I understand that this bike isn't built to be the hill climbing smasher. More so, it's meant to be that efficient, high-speed bike for whoops and turns that are fairly moderate and smooth. This hill, again, really tests the limits of every e-bike we try. So honestly, I'm proud of this little guy for making it all the way up when I was giving it its all. So yeah, 1:32 was my time standing, and I did not finish while sitting. So we like to conduct what we call the circuit test when we test our electric bikes. Our circuit test is a 1 mile loop with 4 right turns, descents, and inclines, and overall, it gives us a really good idea of how the bikes perform on all their different pedal assist levels. When I pedaled this bike completely off around our circuit test, I had an average speed of 12.5, which is pretty respectable considering it's an e-bike turned completely off. When I jumped up to the first pedal assist level, I went up about 2.5 miles per hour. I was hovering around 15.1 miles per hour average speed. When I was in my highest pedal assist level overall, I hovered around 18.6 miles per hour on average, which is very admirable considering the fact this bike tops out at 20. One of the things that I think keeps this bike moving so fast is the gearing. With the single speed drivetrain geared to a little bit harder gearing overall, you're able to keep this bike moving even if the motor isn't engaging fully. Because of that, you're probably going to have a little bit longer range on this bike, and you're also going to see it float up a hill because you're maintaining that cadence. You don't have the choice of a throttle or a super powerful motor to sit back and relax on this bike. You're working just about as hard as the motor is at all times, but because of that, you have high average speeds in your highest pedal assist level. Alrighty guys, we are to that point in the day where we are doing our brake test. Our brake test is set up where we have cones spaced 5 feet apart, and we do 5 total brake tests from 20 miles per hour. So basically, I'll be stopping from full speed and taking the average distance from those 5 attempts to see how these brakes perform. On the KBO Hurricane, we have 160 millimeter rotors hooked up with mechanical disc brakes. Decent size for the type of bike, but let's see how they work. Alrighty guys, so I just finished up those 5 brake tests, all from around 20 miles per hour, and my results ended up being very close together every single time. My ending stopping distance average was 19 feet 6 inches, which is a little farther than we're used to seeing, but this bike had a lot more bunched together results than what we're used to seeing as well. So while the stopping power may have been a little lower than what we're used to seeing, the consistency of these brakes were really up there with some of the best we've seen. While stopping power is obviously a key component and critical component to good braking, consistency is as well. Knowing how those brakes are going to respond is also a crucial variable in stopping. And that's what I really saw here. Yes, 19 feet 6 inches is a little farther than normal, but that's okay when I know it's going to stop within that distance about every single time, like it did here. Alrighty guys, it has been a blast testing out the KBO Hurricane today, and because of my tests, I have a few main takeaways that I think will be very valuable to you guys. One, this is the non-e-biker's e-bike. You can't even tell it's an e-bike at the first glance, and it does take a few miles on the bike to really feel that organic engagement that's in the background. As you've heard me say time and time again, this is very much a normal bike first and an electric bike second. That assistance is there to help you keep up that average speed, but you're still getting a proper workout in the whole time. I really like how KBO's designed this bike around a road bike frame, but they've also given you some components of a city commuter as well. For one, that 610 millimeter alloy bar is awesome. I love having a straight bar on my road bikes. For me, it's great to move in and out of traffic, bob and weave in between alleyways, and just have a very fast-paced, aggressive ride. That bike is great for that, and it's also great looking. KBO's done a good job designing the frame. All the little curves on the frame look good. The welds are very low profile, and when you're riding the bike, it feels very well put together below you. Yes, this bike doesn't have as much power as some of the others, but I think that's okay. Not every e-bike has to be the blow your face off levels of power type of e-bike. Some e-bikes can show you what they're made of with a little less power and a little lighter weight design. This is one thing that I really like that KBO is doing. They seem to understand that there is more than one type of e-bike that can be beneficial to us as consumers. This is going to be a purist's e-bike in the sense that you're riding the bike first, that assistance is there in the background when you need it. Not only that, this bike comes in around $1,000, and I think what you're getting for the price point is honestly killer. Seeing a belt drive like this on a bike around $1,000 is definitely refreshing, and I think they're pushing the industry in the right way with their design here. As far as cons, some people might not like how underpowered it is. I don't really see it as a con. I see it as just another component of the bike. They embrace the fact that this thing is underpowered, and they've set it up as such to where your gearing is still gonna keep you at a higher rate of speed, and the bike is only 36 pounds, so even if it were dead, you can still get away with pedaling this thing around. With all of that being said, if you are looking for a stealthy commuter that's lightweight and that feels like a natural bike below you, I'd heavily consider checking out the KBO Hurricane. I really liked it, and I think KBO is onto something with their design here. With that being said, my name's Pierce Kettering with Electric Bike Report, and I really appreciate you guys watching. It's always good to see you guys stop by for the reviews, and I want to hear what you have to say in the comments below. If there's other bikes you want to see us review, leave those in the comments as well, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. We really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe for future reviews, tips, and other fun e-bike related videos, and check out our description for a detailed written review on the KBO Hurricane. As I've said time and time again, I had a lot of fun on this bike, and I think my written review on it is going to give you a lot of information on if it's the right bike for you or not. With that being said, again, my name is Pierce, signing off for Electric Bike Report.